Hi, everyone. Welcome to my LinkedIn live show. I love to do these because it gives me an opportunity to talk to someone doing something inspiring in the community or in business. And my heart for it is that people watching and listening also become inspired. So today I'm going to be talking to Clive Bird, who is an amazing person that I met on LinkedIn probably about a year ago now, maybe
Yeah.
a bit less than that. And he's done amazing things. And he's currently launching his new business called Freedom Link. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about his career to date because he's an engineer and now he's launched into entrepreneurship. So we're just going to have a chat about that. If you're listening and you've got questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. I'd love to take them. And also tell us where you're listening from, right? It'd be good to know where around the world people are listening to this broadcast. So, hi, Clive. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Yekemi, how you doing? It's
I'm
good
really
to be here.
So, where are you based so people know where you are?
Yeah, I'm based in Darlington, but like I say, our business is a digital business, so we're sort of focused on the whole country itself. But
Okay.
I live in sunny Darlington.
And is it actually sunny?
No.
Just clarifying that. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I've just been basically complaining to people. I live in Scotland, in Aberdeenshire, and the amount of snow that's fallen in the last 2 weeks is so much. It's more than I've seen in Scotland, and I've been here 17 years. So it's been a weird few weeks, but luckily it's melting, so I can't complain too much anymore.
It was unreal for us too. We've had the most snow I've seen since I've lived in the country, and
Yeah.
the one day we had loads of snow, and then the next day we woke up and there was nothing. It just literally disappeared overnight. So it's all signs of the snow have gone now. So
yeah, I'm not complaining at all. So for people watching, give us a bit of a background to your career journey till date. So you started as an engineer and you've done a few different things in engineering and now you're doing something different. But if we start with, where did you start from? Tell us.
Okay, so well, basically, I started in South Africa. I actually studied electronics, and I ended up going into hydraulics because my dad was a director of a hydraulics company. So you sort of got pushed into the whatever your father does, you do. So while I was in Africa, I did most of the work in mining and agriculture, manufacturing, and I spent a lot of time sort of traveling around the country doing various jobs. A lot of Southern Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique. And then sort of when I came up to, came to age, I decided that I wanted to go and do a working holiday in the UK. And I came up to the Northeast and I started working for a small hydraulics firm called Jankus Hydraulics, who I think have disappeared now off the market. And I met my wife and my plan was just to work and then travel and then work and then travel. But I met my wife and we ended up staying. So I stayed in the Northeast and then I ended up working for a company called the Engineering Business, which is probably one of the best companies I've ever worked for. They were on the cutting edge of engineering. And I started off in the workshop and I was sort of just like their hydraulic technician. And, they saw my potential and they promoted me up to hydraulic design engineer. I did that for, a short period of time. And then I got lured away with offshore money. So I ended up working offshore for the last sort of 14 years, various different industries, pipe laying, and heavy construction and offshore construction. And then my last sort of 10 years been drilling. And then, while I was with my last company, I got to do some amazing projects, in Singapore. And we got to, go and commission two very, high spec jack-up rigs, which are, the jewels of their crown. And I really enjoyed that aspect, the changes between the job roles, when you go from, sort of production based and then into construction. Yeah. And I started thinking then that this is the type of thing I want to do, and I started thinking, well, I could go into that, but that required me being away from home even more than I already was. I often joke with my wife that we've been married for, 15 years and I've been away for 7.5 of them, so like it's really only a 7.5 year marriage. But, as last year came and the first lockdown came, I sort of decided that, working away wasn't really for me anymore. So I wanted to create something where I could work from home. And then, the more people that started, doing remote working because of COVID, I kind of, caught a glimpse of an opportunity and started developing it and designing it. And that's where it's come now. So like, although I'm still an engineer at heart, it's sort of becoming a secondary role to me now. It's now a small portion of what we do. So So yeah, so that's pretty much the career to date.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. And I think one of the things I want to touch on, especially for the benefit of people maybe watching and listening and who have come to a reflection point as well as a result of COVID hitting and, maybe losing a job or falling out of love with a job and just reflecting on whether this is, who they want to be when they grow up. So I know what that feeling is like when you start thinking, actually, maybe I want to do something different. This isn't really what I want to do for the rest of my life. Could you talk through some of the, I guess, maybe questions that you asked yourself, some of your
Oh,
thought
definitely.
process, to kind of share a little bit about that inflection point? It's probably a
Yeah.
long time coming, Clive, but I feel like there was probably some kind of pivotal reflection point for you at the start of the pandemic.
No, no, definitely. The pandemic definitely was the clincher, but my reflection point started a few months before the pandemic. So basically, I was trying to get out of offshore and I wanted to be office based. And the company I was working for, I was like really pushing to try and get a promotion. I was like, I want to get off the offshore game and I want to move into the office and start progressing my career. I've been offshore enough years now. I feel like I know everything I need to know, and I'm ready to take on the new challenge. And I was getting a lot of resistance from the office because I didn't have the required degree they wanted, and there was a lot of aspects that they were sort of blocking me, and it felt like they weren't taking into account the quality of service and my skill and ability that was proven already within the company. It sounded like there's just HR was just deciding, what, you haven't got enough on paper, even though everybody knows that you were highly capable. So that was my point when I started thinking, what, I've got 30 years of work ahead of me. I can't have reached my full potential at 38. That's just not possible.
Yeah.
So that was when it started, and then when COVID hit, that's what really drove the sort of the nail right into the plank, where I sort of saw an opportunity. Everybody was getting furloughed, and everybody was like struggling to get work. But some industries would keep going because they were classed as required services and all that, and then I sort of everybody working from home and the transition, and everybody was doing Zoom calls, and I thought, what, let me reach out to a few of my people that I've worked with over the years, and I reached out to a few companies, and I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. I'm really tired. I'm really fed up with my job. I don't enjoy the politics. I don't enjoy the up and down of the industry, and I just really want to create something new. And what I want to do is I want to basically do specific projects, whether it's a high level overview or just basic documentation. And because I've been working with these guys for a long time, and I'm usually the guy that checks their documentation and makes sure they deliver everything to they were like, well, yeah, I really need some help with my documentation because it's not always the greatest. And I was like, brilliant. And that was sort of what started us off. And then I managed to rope in a few colleagues that I'd worked with, and I got a little business format, a business structure going. And it was another 6 months before we sort of really decided that, yeah, this was what we wanted to do, and this was the leap of faith that I was going to take, and I was going to leave my nice, safe, big, high-paid job to go and pursue something with no guaranteed earnings. It's
Yeah, I know.
and and that's what it is. So COVID definitely sort of drove it home for me, and I think the idea that sort of everybody moved to remote, and people started noticing that remote was actually really beneficial in some ways. I know there's a lot of ways where it's not beneficial, and I don't think you can always replace 100% human connection, but general work can be replaced by remote, and you can form some sort of a barrier. And I think a lot of people realize that they spend too much time socializing within their work zone, and when they lost their socializing with work, they realized they didn't have a lot else. So I wanted to sort of create something else where it wasn't just all about work. It was about living your life and pursuing your interests and your dreams, but working to maintain that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you said two things that I really want to touch on. The first one was, I suppose, a realization that I came to because a friend of mine, she was older than me. She's maybe 20 years older than me or so. And it was years ago when I was in a different career, so in a different life. I was also an engineer. And I don't know what I was telling her. I was umming and ahhing about some decision to make a change, maybe a change of company or a change of roles. And she said to me, she said, you do realize that you have over 30 years left of your career, and you can literally have 3, 4, 5 other careers
Exactly.
before you actually retire. And it was a real revelation moment for me, that I realized I didn't have to be bogged down with like what I studied and what things are now, and that I could actually explore things. And I just think it's maybe, I think you alluded to this, is our kind of upbringing where we're brought up by a generation that believes, you study something at school and that's what you do till you retire.
Yes,
And you
exactly.
stay in the same company until you retire. And it's a sign of loyalty and stability, which obviously I understand. So I just remember her saying that to me. We were walking, it was a garden place, and she said that to me. She said, you have over 30 years left to work, and more if you want to work longer. So why are you bothered about that? You can have 3, 4, 5 careers.
Exactly.
And I think it's kind of what you were saying earlier about, you had 30 years left of
Yeah.
your career, and you had so much more to give, and you've gone out and done it. The other thing that you said that I thought was really interesting is when you said, when COVID hit, people realized that a lot of their work was around socializing, was around that. And then when that was taken away and it was the bare bones of the job,
Yeah.
it maybe didn't look as attractive anymore, which is a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about it like that, because I've been part of teams in the past when I worked in the corporate world where I loved my team. I made such good friends, at work. But when it came to it, it needed to be more than that to really enjoy your job and be fulfilled and progress and achieve your hopes and dreams, right?
Exactly.
So I think you've touched on a point around that. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit, and then we'll come to the Freedom Link and exactly what it does, because people are probably wondering what it does, and do feel free to ask questions and things. But could you elaborate a little bit on that kind of junction that you found and what you're doing about that with what you're now kind of offering to the market?
Right. So basically, a big part of my social life, when I sit and I look through my Facebook and I look through my mobile phone and I look, a lot of my connections are all people I work with. So because we spend so much time together, and in the offshore fraternity, like we spend so much time and we know everything about everybody's family. We know what's going on in their home life. We know, because we're isolated. So we sit in the coffee shops and we're talking about, our lives at home, and we learn so much about each other. So it's an even more intense experience than maybe in a normal office where you just go for a couple hours a day. We eat every meal together. And like I said, when I left offshore and I started my own, like the only thing I miss is those human interactions. I don't miss the job, but to be perfectly honest, the job was incredibly boring. But the human interactions, that's the one thing I miss. So with Freedom Link, what I'm trying to establish is human interactions should be with your friends and your family, and you should have a life. So you should have you should pursue your passions. And if you haven't got any hobbies or interests, you should really take a look and think to yourself, if my life is all about work, then there is something missing in my life. Work is important and money is important, but that balance, that integration of work and life and recreation are super important. And I speak to everybody I speak to. I try and explain how, I did a post a little while ago about the 4-day work week, and how in 1930 Henry Ford decided that the 5-day work week was really good. And we were going to be able to get everybody working Monday to Friday, and then they have time to recreate on the weekends and spend their money. And, that creates a whole, and when you actually think about it, I was probably the best and worst employee any of my companies have ever had, because I could do my job in, half the time, but I wouldn't go and say, oh, I finished that, what's next? I would, space my day out and, walk around and socialize. And I think a lot of us do that in work, where we spread out our day and we give up, let's say half of our work week to water cooler conversations. And it becomes such a major part of our lives, because we can't, oh, I work for 40 hours a week. That's what I do. I get this much money. But when you work for yourself, you could do the same amount of work in 20 hours, because you're not wasting your time water cooler chatting and looking at, oh, so-and-so's only done so much, so I'm only going to do so much, because we earn the same,
Yeah.
So what I wanted to create was a company where you go, you know what, I can get my work done quicker than anybody else. So when I price a job for a customer, I price the job and they'll say, oh, it takes me 8 hours. I say, well, it'll take one of my guys 8 hours. And, their hourly rate is probably a lot less than yours. But you know yourself that when you do something really good and you do yourself something really competent, you can do it in 4 hours or 6 hours, because you're quicker. You do it all the time. So the work is better quality and it's done quicker. And the freelancers reap the rewards because, they do it all the time. So they do that specific niche task all the time. And they can have a lifestyle around work where they can say, oh, I'm going to do that task. It's an 8-hour task, but I could probably smash it in, 5 or 6 hours if I put my head down. And that's my work for today because that's an 8-hour task. And then you can actually go and socialize. You can plan a coffee break with a friend and, visit for lunch. And the more people that start to do it, the better lifestyle becomes. And it saves businesses money because you're not paying for those coffee water fountain conversations. So what I'm trying to do, back to your question, is what I'm trying to do is tell people, there is a social aspect to work. You have to get on with the people you work with. Like when we have a project and we have project meetings, we try and keep them really casual. We try and try and have really good conversations about where we're trying to go, what we're trying to achieve, and those relationships. The more projects you work on, build up as well as time. But at the same time, I'm interested in what people do, for fun and for recreation and how they cope with being isolated. And a lot of us feel that, we don't see our friends at the best of times. And we've actually started to reach out a bit more. And, people do Zoom calls with their friends, which we didn't do before. But we probably didn't even see them that much either because we were too busy with our lives, but we didn't notice it. But now we're noticing it. And that's what I'm trying to achieve is like, work is work. Recreation and friendship is completely separate. And if you can get the balance right, you can have a really good life. Yeah. And it won't affect you as much being a remote worker.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much. I wanted to pause a little bit and just thank the couple of comments that we've had. So MSCOB, Kevin, hi. I went to school with him. Hi, thanks for commenting. And also we have Ikechukwu has also made a comment. So thank you for joining us and watching. If you've got any comments or questions, do feel free to put it in the chat. I want to go on now to what is Freedom Link. So what is it and how is it related to, what we were talking about before around kind of keeping those jobs in the UK and helping people, I guess, achieve a kind of a more rewarding career. So let's hear about what that is.
Okay, so the idea behind Freedom Link is we're sort of an umbrella company. So we create, structures and policies and procedures, and we create a framework for, all the freelancers to work beneath. So a lot of the business owners that I've been speaking to, they find that, they would go to outsource, they would take on freelancers, but it's a lot of time interviewing and vetting all these people. So that's essentially what Freedom Link does is, I take my time building relationships and vetting freelancers. And then the other part of my time is I take time to build relationships and sell their skills to businesses. So it's like a job of two parts. And what I try and do is I try and create as many opportunities for the freelancers as for the businesses. So the businesses will come to us with this, complex or simple task. I really want to get this done. And we don't put a time limit on it. We have a due date, but we just put a value. So every task is owned. So people can go, oh, hang on a minute, I want to earn this much a week. So my target is to do this many tasks. Mm-hmm. If I smash out that many tasks in 3 or 4 days, then I've got the rest of the week off. And that's the goal I'm trying to create. So, I want people to be able to go, oh, it's really sunny outside today. I'm going to go for a nice walk in the countryside with the dog. And then, another day they might wake up and go, oh, it's raining a lot. I might spend an extra couple of hours working today because, the cloud. And it's about that balance. Who said that, 8 till 5 was the best working hours? That could be optimum social time. It allows people to, go and fetch their kids from school and not pay for childminders, which saves a lot of money. So you don't even have to earn as much when you start working, freelance, because you can plan your day around your family life and around your lifestyle. And, like I do a lot of my work sort of, after the kids go to bed, so between 8 and midnight, I spend most of my time doing my most productive work because I've done my day. My wife will sit next to me and she'll watch Netflix and she'll watch her shows, and I'll just sit and tick away at my work. And if there's something interesting, I'll turn around and talk. But I don't feel like I'm away, so I feel like I've integrated my work and my life really well. And that's what I'm trying to sell with Freedom Link is, you can be a diligent worker and you can be a hard worker, but you can also have a life. You don't have to work 80 to 90 hours a week. I don't know if you ever experienced this in your corporate days, but you'd have a manager and then they would send you an email on a Sunday about a really stupid thing that you think to yourself, really, you're doing that on a Sunday? Like, come on, like this brings no value to anybody. It's just a stupid thing that could easily wait till Monday. And we've created these corporate cultures where we feel like we have to do that, and you can see it because you can see who's CC'd in, and they're like, oh, I'm on top of things. I'm working the weekend, or I'm working Friday nights, or I'm working Saturday. Look how good I am at my job. But realistically, if you're good at your job, you would be doing it in your 9 to 5. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. You don't have to have this politics and this bureaucracy and the look at me. If you create a task-based system where people go, they pick the job, they do the job gets finished, they get paid, you get paid, everybody gets paid. That's the life that
it's about outcomes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's about outcomes rather than counting time. And to go back to the corporate days, and I do remember, companies that would be basing your performance on how many hours you're actually in the office beyond the closing time, right?
Exactly.
So, if you were still there at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., you're absolutely walking on water. And if you were trying to leave at 5 p.m., then you obviously didn't really care about your career. Yeah, you're not committed. Exactly. So, I know exactly. I know exactly what you mean. So, for people listening, I'm just thinking with Freedom Links, it sounds like there are kind of two groups of people that you deal with. So just in case people want to get involved, they want to know more, they want to know if it's for them. So there's two groups of people that you seem to work with, and you can kind of elaborate on that. So the first group are people that are, freelancers that want to work for themselves. They want that flexibility. They've got some specific skills that they can do. And these skills really help, small business owners or even larger companies actually, but they've got specific skills that they can take off the plate of these companies. And then you're also dealing with those companies, the bigger companies, the actual small businesses or SMEs that are looking for those tasks to be taken off them. So you talk us a little bit about how someone gets involved. So what's the process? So if I'm a small business owner and I'm drowning in some work, it could be project management, it could be admin stuff. What is the process of working with Freedom Link? How have you set that up?
So first things first, the Freedom Link, our company structure is we have client managers. So every client has a dedicated client manager. So they have one person, one point of contact for whatever job they need, whether it could be from an HR to HSC to an engineering support to virtual PA. They have one point of contact, and that person is accountable for everything that the company does for their customer. So they essentially become the project manager of every project for their client. And so our company is set up in a project management structure. So every task is managed by a project manager. So it could be a small one task where you have one freelancer. There'll be one freelancer and a client manager. Or it could be a bigger project where you have the client manager, an actual sub-project manager, and various disciplines to deliver a specific output. So what I do is I speak so my first part right now is we're in the beta phase. So like we're still developing what our final offering is. And our offering is really, centered around the skills and the services of the people we work with. We can't sell accounting if we haven't got an accountant. We can't sell, HR if we haven't got HR people. And at the same time, what business owners want. We're not going to go and make up roles if a business doesn't want that. So it's a two-pronged attack where I sort of, build relationships with and small businesses. I mean, I've got quite a few freelancers who are actually small business owners who have, 3 or 4 employees. They do a specific small part of what they do, but, they struggle with sales or they haven't got enough work to keep them going. And they say, well, we'll do freelance work, through your company. And, that's great. And then eventually as their businesses grow, and as they want other stuff done, they know fully what we do. So we support, so it's a reciprocal, collaborative sort of business where everybody sort of helps everybody out. It's almost like I like to think of the BNI where it's sort of this really heavy, referral based sort of, I'll refer you, you refer me. But this is a much more casual referral base where you bring your customers into us to do and we do the work that you don't do. And we give you customers that we've got to do the work you do that we don't do. And it creates a really nice symbiotic relationship between small business owners. And to be fair, a lot of our freelancers, a lot of the people that have started to work with me now, they're actually in full-time employment. I've got a website guy and I've got a graphic designer who actually work for another company, but they're like, I'm wasted in this job, but I'm not ready to give up my job. I can't, I've got car payments and I've got, bills. I can't have ups and downs and a lot of people, that's a circumstance that's difficult to get out. But that's where we sort of offer, we offer them anonymity, where, no customer is going to know that they've got a job, and it doesn't really affect their job. They do it in their own time, and they can slowly get a feel for what it's like to run their own business. They can get a feel for what it's like to, work on projects. And then as their clientele, as their confidence builds up, and as they learn, oh, hang on a minute, this is really good, and I can earn this much a month, they'll start stepping away from their current jobs and, maybe hand their notice and take the plunge. So it's a great way for, people who are thinking about, I've got these great skills. I'm wasted in my current job. I'm just doing, data capturing, but I'm actually really good at, creating Excel documents and, making amazing. Maybe a company wants it, and believe me, companies do want that. If you've seen as many Excel spreadsheets as I've had, where people think they're geniuses by making a plus 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 formula, and it's just a really ugly looking document, then you realize that if you have the skills, there's businesses out there that need those skills.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners, I'm engineering background, so like maintenance and hydraulics and electrical and all that sort of stuff. I know loads and loads and loads about that. I can talk all day about that. But what I don't know is sales. I'm no salesman. So that's a kind of where, I sort of met you and Sarah, and, I just start asking questions. End of the day, we're all in business. We're all, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. I'm just saying, what do you think about this? Or how would you do this?
Yeah.
Or, and one day, I might be at that level where, Freedom Link is doing really well, and some other new start's going to come and ask me questions. I'm going to be like, what you need to do is this and need to do that. And there's enough work for everybody. It's not about, the offshore industry is terrible for like backstabbing and like keeping your information really close to your chest and like not telling anybody information, because, information is king. But, in the real world, people deal with people, and if you help somebody, they'll come and help you in the future. You're only in competition with yourself, I think.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you. I think first of all, I think it's better to, focus on what it is that you're good at, right? And everything else needs to go. And I know when I was in business for, it's probably 18 months or so, that was when I got my first employee, and I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get rid of the admin stuff that I was doing, because I absolutely hate admin. And so as soon as I could afford that, I just, just gave that away. And when I brought her into the business, I mean, even within the first week, I could already see that I'd made the right decision.
Absolutely.
Because the kind of the meticulous way that she had, created these Excel spreadsheets and folders and tags, I knew that even if I had been left for days to sort this out, I would never have gotten to the level she had gotten to in literally hours. So
exactly.
It's that sort of message. So if anyone's listening to this and you're really good at something, and maybe you're out of work just now, or you're thinking about freelancing, it's probably worth just shooting Clive a note. I mean, I'm sure you're
definitely.
open.
Just DM me and then I'll reach out
and have a conversation. So what I want to also kind of go back to a little bit is, so that transition from working full time as an engineer to starting your own business. So we've kind of glossed over it like it's that easy, right? So can you talk us a little bit about that transition and what you did, some of the planning that took place, and also some of the challenges and how you overcome them? And if you haven't overcome certain things, what are those things, and what are you doing? How are you progressing that?
So basically the planning started, sort of, we sort of, right, I want to get out of this. So what am I going to do? So I phoned, sort of business owners, and I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. I think the first part is identify what you want to do and see if there's a market for it. So what I started doing was I started phoning businesses and saying, like, listen, this is what I do. I haven't started a business yet. I'm just curious if, and you choose the people, if you're fortunate enough, you've been working for 20 years, you're going to have some kind of a network.
Yeah.
And then I started, right, okay, there is interest here, there is a potential here. Let me start researching and seeing what other companies there are. And there's loads of companies. I mean, you look at the virtual PA market, which is a small part of our company. There's hundreds of companies that just specialize in virtual PAs. And then if you look at the health and safety, which is another section of our company, there's hundreds of companies that just focus in health and safety. And then you start thinking, okay, hang on a minute, are we taking on too much? And then you go, well, no, because the whole point is we're creating opportunities for all these people. our services are geared. Every freelancer we take on, like I spoke to a guy this morning, and he's an electronics procurement specialist, and what he's doing for electronics companies or startups is amazing, and there's definitely synergies there between his company and our company. So like that, you just got to understand what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it, and then also you got to have your goals. I think a goal is really important. Sometimes you could look and say, well, I want to be a millionaire, but that's not a proper goal. That's just a money-driven goal. You may as well just go and become a Bitcoin trader or something.
Yeah, just sell drugs.
Yeah, exactly. If you're just interested in money, go work offshore and push a broom around for 40 grand a year. But if you're interested in making a difference, or if you're interested in being significant, or you're interested in changing something, or something is not right, there's definitely going to be an opportunity there, and you just have to do your homework. The amount of times that me and my business partner sat down and came up with an idea of how we were going to work, and then the next week, a customer phoned us and said they're really interested in this. Can you do it? And we'd be like, we hadn't even considered that. So you have to be really flexible as well. You don't know everything, and that's the other thing that I learned very quickly is I don't know everything, but I do know how to treat people, and I do know how to speak to people, and I know how to get a job done. And I think, those three criteria are the success factors of Freedom Linkers. We know how to get the job done. We know how to treat people, and we know how to, really prioritize and save businesses money. So all the rest is not really important. I can get the rest of that information as we go. I build relationships with, intelligent people like yourself, and with Sarah and Bina and all the other people that I've spoken to along the way. And you just ask questions, and that's a really good idea. I'll do that. I'll write that down. This third lockdown was a bit of a kick in the teeth, because we were going to launch our consulting, sort of service where we go into businesses and we go to, business owners and say, what's the 9 tasks that you don't enjoy doing? What's the 9 tasks that keep you away from your core focus, or, keeps you away from growing your business? And then, why not outsource them? And then go to your right-hand man and say, well, what's the 9 tasks that stop him from doing what he's supposed to do, right? Outsource them. And then you just carry on going down the way. And as you take workload off people, it means you don't need to employ more people to replace, to take the load off of them. You outsource and you send specialists the work you want. Like you said earlier on, you employed a PA or an assistant to do X, Y, and Z for you. Now imagine that assistant was working for 20 companies, and she was making spreadsheets every day. What kind of quality spreadsheet would you be expecting from a person that does that at that level? How quick would they deliver a spreadsheet, or how quick would they arrange your data if they were doing it for 20 different companies and they had learned so many different tricks? Because everybody does something differently. And if you have the ability of learning from multiple different revenues, and I think that's the real benefit, the freelancer and the millennial mindset. I mean, I was born in 1982, so like I don't class myself as a millennial, but I do respect the millennials. They have a mindset that's not like everybody else's. They want to do everything, and they don't want to be told how to do it. And in the corporate world, where we have these big hierarchical structures, that doesn't work. And that's why a lot of people say millennials can't be managed. But you take a millennial and you tell them what you want to do, they'll find the easiest way to do it, because it means they can be finished earlier. They'll make it look 10 times nicer than anybody in the old school format, because it's just how their brains are. They're so used to seeing, that type of stuff, and they're so integrated with technology, they'll already know all the links. And if they don't know how to do it, they'll sit on YouTube and they'll figure it out. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's what I want to create. I want to create opportunities where people can use their brains, create amazing products, and not be pigeonholed into like, this is your only skill, because you can develop as many skills as you want. You just need the right direction.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I absolutely see what you're saying. And I think that more and more there's room for this kind of thinking. And even if you're not a millennial, it's a mindset thing. Right?
Exactly.
You can shift your mindset,
yes.
and it's not determined by what year you were born, kind of thing. So it's really good. Thanks for everyone who's watching. So we're talking to Clive Bird, who is an engineer that has started his own kind of business where he's providing kind of managed services to small businesses and SMEs so that they can, stick to what they're really good at and stop doing the stuff that they're not good at, and get the experts in, to help. And that is anything across kind of project management, VA services, just anything that you need. So what I wanted to do, because we've spoken a lot about freelancers and that work-life balance and so on. So when we then focus on kind of small business owners and SMEs, for instance,
Okay.
what are the sort of conversations that you're having with those people, either to kind of get them on board to understand why they should be looking at something like Freedom Link, and if you could tie it back to what we discussed, I think it was when we were not on the live, when maybe we were talking just one-on-one around that whole kind of keeping jobs in the UK, and what's the relationship with that, and what is the conversation you've been having with small business owners?
Okay, well, I'll start with the keeping the jobs in the UK first. So another big point of my previous company was they started sort of looking for ways to save money. The markets were crashing and they were looking for ways to save money. So rather than thinking about the people that they work with, they just thought about how can I save the most money. So they started outsourcing the engineering processes to countries like India and the Philippines and all these other, cost-effective ways, engineering, IT, and these skills, especially when you operate in a specific country, if you send all the work to other countries, who are going to be your customers? Because the people that used to work for you don't have jobs anymore. You've saved all this money, but you've got no customers because nobody's got work. So that's sort of what spearheaded off this whole freelancing and outsourcing model was, why can't we have an outsourcing model that saves companies money that's UK based? That is internal. We look inwards. I mean, we talk about all this stuff all the time with Brexit and all that sort of stuff. Let's look inwards and let's use the talent of the people. We have loads of talent and we have loads of people. Let's figure out a way to construct a company that allows businesses to save money, because the traditional way of running a business, and it's costly. Hierarchical business organizations cost loads of money. I mean, how many supervisors? Sometimes I felt like, you 10 supervisors for one Indian in some companies, so many layers of checking, and it's just not necessary. So if you change your company structure slightly, you can definitely reap the rewards of outsourcing and not having to send the work overseas. You can still have the same professionals in this country doing the work for you. So that's my first sort of driving force, is to keep UK jobs in the UK. And then sort of secondly, when I speak to business owners, and I speak to a lot of business owners, they always talk about, I'm going to employ somebody to do that, and then when you read the person they're trying to get, they've got a bachelor's degree for this, and you read the job role, and you think, well, why do you want somebody with a bachelor's degree to do that? You break that job role into 7 different tasks. The person with the bachelor's degree section is like a minute, minuscule part. So you're not companies don't seem to plan how to better maximize the use of their resources. They just seem to think, well, we'll get a person who can do this, and then we'll just, hang on a minute, that's only like 3 hours of work, so we'll give him this job, and he can do that job as well, and then hang on, we'll add this job in, because nobody else wants to do that, so we'll get that job in there, and we just go and we pile loads of rubbish into a job role, and then we look for a bachelor's to do that, and we go, or a superhuman to do all this work, when realistically, you don't need to employ anybody. You just need to sort your company out and look at what tasks are important, what tasks deal with your customer, what tasks, create your competitive advantage. You don't outsource those tasks. You make sure you have your best and your brightest on those tasks, and you deliver maximum service to your customer. And then you look at the other, jobs like, CRM, data capturing and all that. Do you need your salespeople to do all that, or can you just get an admin to do that for them? And that's the type of work you want to outsource, because it's labor intensive, it's time consuming, and if it's not something you enjoy doing, it distracts you from what your actual job is. So if you have frontline staff and they're dealing with customers and they're technical people, making reports and doing all the admin stuff is not what they're interested in. They're interested in solving technical problems. So take that admin and outsource it. Because there's that many apps now and that many services now where it's dead easy to send the information through to a company to turn into a usable report, or sort it out, or do an analysis, or whatever needs to be done. But as a business owner, you need to decide, what's important and what's not important. Yeah. And again, all support roles are important. I mean, don't get me wrong, we won't get our ISO 9001, and we won't get all our ISO qualifications or certifications and all that sort of stuff if we don't have all these steps. So they are important. They're just not important to the customer. What's important to the customer is the quality of service they're getting and the product they're getting, and that And that's sort of how I define it. And I say to businesses or business owners that I've been speaking to is when you get to the point where you have no time, but you have a bit of money in the bank, but you're doing all this work, then you need to start deciding what's important and what's not important.
Yeah.
What creates it. And that's the type of work we're trying to pull out of the companies and outsource through our system. Yeah. And they'll find it saves them money. I mean, an engineer, has a much higher hourly rate than a technical writer.
Yeah.
And then an admin. And, when the business goes up, you don't need to go and find all these people. We have them all already. And then when business goes down, you don't have to worry about paying them because everybody works freelance. Everybody understands that's the industry. But when you create a diversified business like ours, we deal in all the industries. So, the oil and gas industry could be having a major slump, which, it's, hopefully coming out of now for all those people that work in that industry. But the environmental industry is doing really well. And if you position yourself to work with all these companies, because a support role is a support role, it doesn't matter if the company's an agricultural company or a manufacturing company or an offshore company. Support is support, and those functions are the same. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create future-proof people's jobs, essentially by going, well, hang on, rather than being the jack of one trade or one specific industry, focus on that niche skill and do it for all industries. Yeah. That way we can ride the waves as industries go up and down. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. And business owners that they generally get it when I speak to them. I mean, all entrepreneurs, nobody likes to give away their baby and like sort of go, hang on a minute, there's too much. We become a bit of a control freak. But there's a point when you can't keep it up anymore and be a sane person and operate at your maximum level. And you owe it to your company to think about these types of things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. I think we probably touched on it a little bit at the beginning that I think when you start a business, I know certainly for myself and a lot of other business owners that I know, when you start and you put the time and money kind of, decision next to each other, it always seems like a better decision to just do it yourself and not spend that money. But then if you're actually successful, you will get to a point where actually your time becomes your rarest resource, and you have to give stuff away. But I know it's quite difficult, delegating and so on. That's a whole different LinkedIn life, Clive.
Exactly.
Whole like delegating and how to do that and leadership and so on. But yeah, if you're a small business owner right now and there are things in your business that need to be done, but it's not your core skill. Like I always say, we are a sales and marketing consultancy. We're not a finance company. So I don't really want to be doing finance. I mean, I should know my numbers, but I'm not an accountancy. So I shouldn't be spending a chunk of my time doing accountancy. I'm not a project manager. So, that should be somebody else doing that. And so that we could focus on what we're really good at rather than just kind of fiddling around with everything within the business. So great. Really, really, really good to kind of hear your plans and your passion behind this. A couple of last questions. If anyone's listening has got comments or questions, do keep it coming. I'm enjoying seeing some of the comments coming through. So when you look at Freedom Link, say in the next 2 or 3 years, what is your vision for what the company is going to look like and what you would have achieved by that time?
Okay, well, the vision basically, once we get past this initial stage of sort of getting our core customers and getting our core freelancers and getting all our processes mapped out, and we're going to really focus on sort of scaling the business and automating it as much as possible. So right now we're focusing on task management and getting the work in and getting it done and how we're going to do all that. But in 2 years' time that'll all be done, and we'll be focusing on how we can automate the process and save our customers even more money. Automation and machine learning and all these areas are areas where we're going to focus very heavily in the future, where we can completely streamline the operation and reduce the lag between job creation and job receipt. So I think that for the future, that's our big sort of task. But yeah, right now it's a case of getting the company to a profitable point where we have the money to start investing in that type of stuff. And then like I say, at the moment that's where our head's at, is still firmly on stage one. But stage two, we're going to really focus on sort of software and a few other sort of niche industries that we can't really start right now, even if we had the people, because they require a little bit more infrastructure, a little bit more sort of credibility. Like we are going to look and focus at getting all our ISO accreditations, our data management get all that sort of lined up so that, you know, customers know that we're trustworthy and we take care of their data for them. So like that's definitely also in the process.
Okay, brilliant. Sounds like a fantastic future. Sounds like something that is really needed in the UK and is enriching lives, really. So if you're listening to this and you want to get in touch with Clive, do feel free. I have put the link to his website somewhere in the comments. You can find it there. You're also on LinkedIn a lot, right? Is that your main social platform?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of where I started focusing on, you know, getting myself in front of as many customers as I possibly can. So LinkedIn is my main home, so I come on there all the time. And yeah, I mean, a lot of business owners use LinkedIn, and you know, sort of people that I want to work with are on there. So I spend a lot of time there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So that's where to find Clive. It's here. We have a couple of LinkedIn live. Well, I have a couple of LinkedIn lives. I mean, planned. It'll be into March now. So I've got Annabelle Turner, who is an amazing kind of cyber safe expert. She does a lot of stuff with children in school. So just to look out for that if you're listening. And also I am interviewing Myrna Arif, who is an amazing lady who I worked with in a former life, and she's now country manager at Microsoft in Egypt. So those are a couple of things to look forward to. Clive, thank you so much for joining me today. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
It's been good.
And you're welcome. And if you're listening, thank you so much for listening. And if you're listening back to this later, thank you for listening. And feel free to get in touch with Clive if you've got any questions around what he's doing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.